I want to tell you something about the future, and I want you to hear it not as a prophecy, but as a calculation. The world of 30 years from now will not be a slightly improved version of today. It will be unrecognizable, and it will arrive far sooner than almost anyone you know expects. This is not optimism, and it is not science fiction. It follows from a single, simple law, so reliable that it has held for over a century. Once you understand it, you will never see time the same way again. The reason the future keeps surprising us comes down to one deep flaw in human intuition. We think in straight lines. Our minds evolved on the savannah, in a world where tomorrow looked almost exactly like yesterday. So when we imagine the future, we take today's rate of change and extend it forward in a straight line, and that instinct, so natural and so useful for 100,000 years, is now the single greatest reason we misjudge what is coming. Let me show you the difference with your own eyes. Take 30 steps linearly. 1, 2, 3, and so on. 30 steps. You end up about 30 paces away. Now take 30 steps exponentially. Instead of adding 1 each time, you double. 1, 2, 4, 8, 16. By the 30th doubling, you are not at 30. You are at over a billion. You have circled the entire Earth more than 20 times. Same number of steps. Wildly, almost incomprehensibly different destinations. And here is the crucial point. Technology, specifically the technology of information, does not move in straight lines. It doubles. The power of computing has been doubling roughly every 2 years for decades. A pattern most people know as Moore's Law. But the truth is far deeper and far more astonishing than most people realize, because this doubling did not begin with the microchip. When you measure the raw price performance of computing all the way back, you find it has been accelerating for over a century, across 5 completely different technologies. Mechanical relays, vacuum tubes, individual transistors, integrated circuits. Each one rose, matured, and hit its limits. And every single time, just as one paradigm exhausted itself, a new one took over, and the exponential continued without missing a beat. The smooth curve sailed straight through world wars, depressions, and the collapse of entire industries. That tells us something profound. The exponential was never really about transistors at all. It is about a deeper force, one that sits underneath all of our tools. I call it the law of accelerating returns, and the engine driving it is beautifully simple. We use today's tools to design tomorrow's tools, and tomorrow's tools are faster. Better computers help us design even better computers. Progress is not just fast. Progress accelerates progress. It feeds on itself. In fact, this law did not begin with technology. It is the continuation of something far older. Evolution itself is exponential. It took billions of years to produce the first simple cells. But once life had a foothold, complex organisms came faster. Then brains, then primates, then us, then language, then tools, in ever shorter intervals. Technology is simply evolution, carried forward by other means, at a pace biology could never match. We are the universe building its next stage, and we are building it faster every year. Now, the skeptics always raise the same objection, and it deserves a real answer. They say every exponential eventually stops. Every trend is really an S-curve, rising fast and then flattening out as it hits a wall. And they are right about any single technology. Vacuum tubes did hit a wall. Transistors are approaching theirs. But here is what the skeptics miss. Before each S-curve flattens, the next one is already rising to take its place. The grand exponential is not one curve. It is a staircase of overlapping S-curves, each one handing the torch to the next. The wall is always real, and we have always climbed over it. Let me give you my favorite example of how badly the linear mind misjudges this. Halfway through the 15-year project to sequence the human genome, scientists had completed just 1%. Critics declared it a failure. At this rate, they said, it will take 700 years. But I looked at that same 1% and saw something completely different. 1% is only about 7 doublings away from 100%. The project was, in fact, perfectly on schedule. It finished on time. Exponentials always look like failure, right up until they look like magic. And that is exactly where we stand today. For most of its long history, an exponential curve looks almost flat. The doublings are happening, but the numbers are still small, so nothing seems to be going on. This is the part that fools everyone. And then the curve reaches what I call the knee, the point where the doublings suddenly become enormous. And the whole thing turns sharply, violently upward. We have spent decades crawling along the flat part of this curve. That era is over. We have reached the knee. Each doubling now adds staggering capability, where the last one added a little. That is precisely why artificial intelligence seems to have leapt out of nowhere in just the last few years. It did not come from nowhere. It arrived exactly on schedule. We have simply rounded the bend where exponential growth becomes impossible to ignore. So let us do what the linear mind cannot, and follow the curve forward instead of the straight line. Computing power is on a perfectly predictable path to match, and then vastly exceed, the raw processing capacity of the human brain. This is not speculation. It is the extrapolation of a trend over 100 years old. The arrival of machine intelligence at the human level is not a question of if. It is a point on a graph, and the graph already exists. When you run those numbers, the dates are remarkably specific. Computers that match human intelligence in every dimension around the year 2029. And then, as machine intelligence begins to improve itself, the curve goes very nearly vertical, arriving at a moment so transformative it deserves its own name, the Singularity. By my projection, around the year 2045. Now let me be honest with you. The way this channel always promises to be, a law is not a guarantee. Trends can break. There are real perils ahead. In genetics, in nanotechnology, in the very intelligence we are building. And we will face every one of them squarely in this series. But understand this, for over 100 years, through every imaginable disruption, betting against this exponential has been a consistent, reliable way to be wrong. The burden of proof now lies with those who claim it will suddenly stop. So what does all of this actually mean for you, watching this right now? It means the straight-line future in your head, the one where things change at roughly today's pace, is an illusion. The real future is steeper, stranger, and closer than that. Within the lifetime of most people alive today, we will likely see human-level AI, the merging of human and machine intelligence, and the real possibility of overcoming aging itself. Every one of those claims sounds outrageous to the linear mind, and every one of them follows naturally, almost gently, from the single curve we have traced today. That is the strange gift of understanding accelerating returns. The future stops being a fog of wild guesses and becomes something you can actually see the shape of. This is the foundation for everything we will explore in this series. The 6 great epochs of information in our universe. The year machines awaken, the merger of mind and machine, the end of aging, and finally, the singularity itself. Each one is a chapter, but they all rest on this one quiet, relentless law. Most people will go on predicting the future in straight lines, and most people will go on being astonished, year after year, as it curves away beneath their feet. You no longer have to be one of them. The future is exponential, and it is arriving faster than you think. Welcome to the series. Welcome, once again, to AI for Laymen.